Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm live again. Um, Super quick one today because I don't know, I just kind of feel like there's not a lot to talk about. So a year ago, I set down a plan, sent it to the royal family and the Vatican, in the hopes of building a proper place in Western Australia for the first time in a long time, in the town that I lived in. And then I happened to, because I don't really keep, it's not like I'm linearly planning this out. And then I fell on the concept to build my own house on my own property, um, at the same time, like a day before. You were 364 days apart. And so that seems good. There's a whole bunch of other things going on. We're clearly in the middle of a military exercise, to restabilize the region, I'm guessing. And everything seems quite good. I think the largest thing we need to understand is that, we've been attacked for 15 years by ourselves in digital form, by the digital projections and promises that didn't live up to the hype. And it's time to take evasive action and reclaim what is actually ours. This, of course, this phenomenon has made such a large gap between the boomers and anyone below it because they had already established themselves and then were benefiting from the new tech paradigm. And then it ended up just basically being like a big electric fence. But that took 15 years for us to find out that. And the whole time, it's like, what have the boomers been doing with the internet for the last 15 years? Because everything I've tried ends up like it basically it is a nightmare, the whole thing. So it's just like we had to fight a war against computers to be able to build our own house. And the boomers are at a casino. They're like in this just craziness. And there's no, it's like so much concentration has gone onto like the fence that we've forgotten what's even inside the fence and what's outside. And it's just like, I think there's just going to be a mass like, fuck off, fuck this shit, and just plod along and do something else. We're going to rediscover the fundamentals of what our economy really is. And for me personally, that's like, who's the farmer that has eggs? Who's the farmer that has meat? Who's the farmer that has milk? And do you know what I mean? And what services do I have that I can do in a convenient enough way to provide me with enough money to buy those commodities and help that economy? That, like, we're going to have to get back to basics. And we need some serious boundaries as to what exactly is this suburban or urban sprawl doing here? What is its intention and what's its output? I'd love to know that. Its output, it has to be children. And then it's like, what are those children doing? They're being lured into a reality of lies. There is no stability in everything, and then that's what the government's using to request taxes and stuff. It's like, well, we've got to deal with the problem. It's like, no, fuck off. You made the problem, and you're continuing to make the problem to perpetuate the need for you. And you did it too big in too crazy a way, out of mostly assumption because of historical connections to other places. But it's like each place should be governed on its own merit, in its own time period, in its own way. You don't get to inherit hundreds of years of history from another region and then pile a bunch of people that aren't connected in the same region and expect to kind of have total rule. You've got to go through the process, and this is the moment where the politicians are going to realize that. You're all incompetent. You have no vision. You're latched onto maybe some fringe portion of something maybe resembling a vision, and you're trying to claim your authority to govern based on your light understanding of the current period. But this just won't do. Like, we can't. It's like our systems aren't supporting themselves for a long time. So like most European villages, towns, and then cities and all these things, they were supporting themselves. And then perhaps during the height of that, they were supporting an expeditionary fleet. And that's why they're so big. That is not the same as exporting minerals. And you've built something that is unsustainable, even if it was an expeditionary fleet. And so we're in a situation where basically, I don't know, there needs to be like a mass surrender from all the politicians, where they come out and beg for mercy, because it is complicated, and we were just floating on assumption everywhere. But you don't know what you're doing. You're in the process of creating so many problems and then saying that you're going to fix it. And it's like this. I mean, if this is the business strategy that's acceptable in Australia, I might crank back up the window business and pay a couple of kids to go and smash windows. Like, I'll just put my card on a rock and then get kids to throw it through a window. Is that what we've come to with the Australian government? Because I think it is. I can't see how it's not. What are we doing to actually support? Like, what is our goal? And there isn't one. So in the meantime, I'm going to build a house that looks like the end of Sandringham. I was saying Sandringham was like, yeah, Sandringham's a very, very large house, and I want to know why. It's like that's the real thing. I know why. I know why all of it. Why is that such a big house? It's like because that was how it worked. So we're in something else where, I mean, the difference is just crazy. And there is no way. See, how does a family, perhaps they're getting, a stipend by the state in the UK. How do they maintain those properties? And there's lots of families there that maintain those properties, and it is difficult so efficiently. And I think this is the balance this is what we're inheriting here in Australia. We have an aristocracy of old balanced out with a parliament of new, and that is in the constant competition. And the baseline fundamentals are, well, how do we as a single family maintain all this land and in this way? And you are encroaching on our boundaries with this Ponzi scheme. And we need to find out where those boundaries are in Australia, in time and in space. Because at the moment it's like, well, obviously the pressure in the UK is going to from the Crown, and the Parliament has created this because it's like the people have left there, come here, hopped onto some type of mining operation here, and then it's out of sight, out of mind. Those people aren't a problem in the UK, and I guess the immigrants were more, they wanted less, they had less comparison, so it was easier. But then you throw in someone like me who's been here long, it's like, well, what's really going on here? And then the government's just doing a terrible job at conservation of lots of things. Like, conservation is of animals and plants and the environment, but it can also be just the aesthetic function, the overall machine engineering of a place and its people. And we're so lost. And I think to do this, I think at the time when these cities and towns and villages and things were being built, I think every day there was someone there explaining to anyone who asked what was going on. I think it was talked about all the time, but it's like, and in a small place, and this is why I think the town where my property is, Gin, that can happen there. Even if it is on my own property. Oh, I'm building this house. It looks like this. It's going to take, okay. That might inspire someone else to do that. Well, how do you do that? Oh, I just do this. I put this block here and I put this thing here and I plan this. Oh, yeah. And I'll happily have people come and have a look. And then I might have a conversation with someone that might be like, where do you get those blocks? Well, here, this. Well, I can give you a rate here. Oh, okay. Oh, well, could you do mine next? Yeah, okay. Righto. Like a contagion of responsible development. And I'm basically at the point where I'm like, well, that is none of the government's business, because I have now for 4 years put up a defense against your nonsense, and I have not had one reply. So why would I do anything? Not in it's like, there are buildings that there are large events going on, which I was pretty fundamental in putting together not that long ago. So in this short amount of time, you've gone from a place where there would be someone explaining what's going on to just, you're treating us all like peasants. And it's really obvious. And the whole thing seems so unstable. I went for a ride yesterday, which was so amazing. I've been waiting to kind of reward myself, and certain aspects of the world got me to a position where I felt that small joy was okay to do yesterday. And I just, like, I understand the basics of it, that everyone here has their own place and, they're connected to this thing. But it's just, I see it as a type of mental illness, this whole place. I saw a woman yesterday, and because electric lawnmowers sound like a vacuum cleaner, I was like, she's vacuuming her fucking front lawn? Like I just rode past it on my bike, and I'm just like looking at all the cars while I'm riding my bike, and I'm like, this is like a serious disorder. And plugging millions of electric cars into that is going to make it worse, not better. Like this road system, this car system, it's really bad. And there are no cities, there are no villages, there is no actual place. This is the largest fucking basically concentration camp on fucking Earth. And it's so large that no one can see it. But it is. It's like just the fundamentals of it. It's like, what are the percentages of freehold property ownership compared to debt load, and who is owning that debt load? So who owns the place, and what are their intentions with the place, and why aren't they in the town square talking about it and putting pictures up? Because everyone is asleep at the wheel or in their fucking bungalow. And there's almost like, it's like a hypnosis effect. You get in your car, you drive around, you're almost like disconnected from where you are, and then you're at home. And it doesn't matter who the neighbor is. It doesn't matter who the fucking anyone is. It doesn't matter what's going on anywhere. You're then at your place. But that is not how humans live. Humans live in place, like they live in towns and things. So this is all just a temporary. It's like a refugee camp for basically the entitled of the world, I think. So if you were being dispossessed by immigrants in your place, you came here, like started doing some type of mining operation, which is basically just funded by China. And then you live unsustainably with no appreciation for the underlying structure of the location. Because it's like, say China says, no more steel, and say there's an entire global slowdown, which is basically on the horizon. Now we just have a bunch of entitled people here that are used to earning way more than they really should, that are going to rush in to try and fill the actual necessary roles, which there aren't many, and they're unskilled in any of those things anyway. And the landscape is littered with these kind of like terrible solitary palaces that it will require like such a creative mind to be able to retrofit these places into what actually humans actually live in. It can be done, but that's a lot more difficult than just going to a town that already exists and then sustainably growing that town and putting an emphasis on the scale and the size of that from the beginning. And that's what I have the luxury of doing. And then I'll ask basically, if anyone gets in the way, if the local government gets in the way or the state government, I'll be like, well, why? Are you trying to, because they don't want the comparison? And then it's like, why don't you want them? Because that exposes the negligence and the unsustainable growth that the government has done. But this happens everywhere, and this is like, nah, I've been here longer than you. Nah, my family built Hobart. Nah, I have an unbroken chain through this whole process. Go away. It's almost like we need, what it would be is, so say we have Albanese as the Prime Minister. We almost need a structure that is transparent, that is visible. And this is what the Senate, I suppose, is supposed to do. And so maybe, I have looked into that. I've looked at all those things. But I actually I would more class it's like we have structures that were neglected and they have been filled with imposters that are working on behalf of people that are completely different to what they're swearing their oaths to. They're underqualified and it's like the corporateocracy of um, of structures that were built for proper governance. I think part of this is caused by the fact that I think people in the UK wanted to prevent the families that came to Australia being able to establish themselves. They thought they could maintain, you know, control from there, and that hasn't worked because the Australians have just said, "No, we want to fucking control ourselves," and then they're just susceptible to all the corruption. But then we still have the link to the monarchy. But it's like, well, I think what we need is rather than, and this, I'll respectfully put this forward to King Charles, I would suggest a structure to be built of families, say 150 years back, to establish to basically the Governor General to fill that role below the Governor General and not the other way around. So we will, and then we would discuss things with that same class in the UK to provide continuity and a check on the timeline of development in Australia. Otherwise, we're just going to, like, this new development. It is not better. It is not superior. It is far less, because the organizational structures required in a pre-email, pre-phone, pre-digital age are far higher because they need to be, and everyone needs to be able to communicate their thing because you're in person doing it, like I am every day, and your administration and reception skills need to be a lot better because you're not just relying on, basically the government now has gone, the inbox is full and they're cherry picking out their inboxes on their own projects. And that, I mean, basically, if that is exposed to be foreign companies or individuals far further afield than the local inhabitants, then we need to dissolve the whole thing. But we need something to fight with. We need a weapon to fight with, so we don't end up using real weapons. And we're running out of individuals because it has been so enticing, this tech digital nonsense, and it operates on humans' desires, immediate desires. That's why I call it a casino, because it's like the whole thing operates on that. So the chances of families' oral traditions being maintained with that onslaught is very, very hard. But we need that now. We need a Commonwealth-wide protection of our traditions. And I think my project in Gingin is the perfect thing to do it. The pace at which I'm going to do it, so say today, I'm going to go just have a look at some things. It's like, this is slow. This whole thing has happened in 5 years. They have tried to push so many things through in 5 years. And it's like 5 years is nothing when you're planning long-term, stable things. And so we have a rapid de-evolution into like sinful casino, Airbnb, concentration camp, refugee camp, everywhere in every state. But physically, geographically, those places take up no actual space. The problem is with it is that they've congregated around the high value areas that were surveyed initially by members of the British Empire. So it's like, what? It would be, it happened in England as well, but on a different scale. And it was clear which areas were which. But in specifically here in Western Australia, it's a nightmare. They've just coloured it in. They've just shaded the whole area and turned it into hell. And say the areas, the high class areas, the high value areas that we do have around the river. Okay, yeah, they've been protected. But we haven't had the regional estates really allowed to do that. And that's because really, when I look at it, and when I send this to the UK, it's like, I am that expeditionary force or I'm the descendants of it, that was the pinnacle of what the United Kingdom became and squandered. And then I'm supposed to be content with fitting into a mining operation here, a communist mining operation. What did my family mine for the United Kingdom and for the Commonwealth? Australia, a gigantic continent that it didn't have. And when you're a tiny little island, that's a big thing. That's like do you want to know the largest gold nugget ever found? Australia. And who protected it and defended it and claimed it and built it into what it is and value added it. When you dig up iron ore or gold, even gold or diamonds, whatever it is from Australia, and you send it somewhere, you haven't value added your investment, your asset. When you build a town and you have all the administration, all these things of a city, on an island, on two islands that the previous empire did not have, and you hold it for 180 years, yeah, where is the check for that? Where is the payment for those activities? And there isn't one. And then it's being destroyed by descendants of convicts, descendants of immigrants, descendants, and being claimed because of the greed of the UK. And this is where it's like, I will stake my claims, whatever I'm saying, in the UK, if maybe perhaps you can re-establish my family's estate there from prehistoric times, from some Thomas Wise. I'll find the link to there. I'm a descendant of that family. That property was used by the Navy for however long, and now I don't know whether it's currently freehold or whether it's still being maintained by the Royal Trust or whatever it is. It's like, if that's the problem, I can stake my ownership there, and that's what should have been done. And then all my activities have been from there in defense and to maintain the holdings that we have down here. But there needs to have something. We need a link back in time from the initial conception of these places, so that we aren't constantly, I always call it, on the tip of the bulldozer blade. Look, all the focus of the world is on the tip of the bulldozer blade. It's like, let's get out of that paradigm. Let's go back 180 years. And I live it from my experience, because I know my family's history in Hobart was relatively stable, bar the interference from the wars in Europe, which all of them participated in. And like, there's an understanding that, yeah, the home front got hammered and we didn't. But then we're getting hammered now in this different way. And it seems pretty simple. It's like, well, let's go back and look at the original concepts of what these places were like. I think I saw something in Hobart, and there was a large grassed area around the whole bay, and the large trees and things with horses. It's like we've lost that connection to what it is, what the royal family is maintaining. Like, if I looked at, because I'm now studying this house, this Sandringham house, like, to look at the estate, it's like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. When I walk around Gin, I'm like, why isn't that? Why can't and I know for a fact the local government is not going to do that. It can't. It's not doing anything like that. I suppose I could run for local government, but it's like, what is that? I don't want to appease all the people. Yeah. I want, like, if I want to easily be able to access, okay, what portions of this shire are Crown land? And then develop out a plan that incorporates, and maybe do some buyback schemes from property owners and things like that, because it's like, it's a wasteland, and it could be magnificent, but no one has, within their own ability, or has the thing to affect that whole place, and the local government is insufficient to do it. And that's what I want to change. I want to see the whole area and work out a plan long term, and then create a very, very hard border with the southern flatland districts of the Perth CBD and the Perth greater urban sprawl area, which is an environmental catastrophe, really. And needs immediate re-engineering. And there's gold, there's low hanging fruit, there's gold in these areas, but once you know where to look to make it run. But I think you need to be well versed in spanning the entire vision for this place, understanding where that vision came from, making the adjustments for the hemispherical differences and the climate differences, and then hopefully cooperatively working back with the UK to fill in each other's gaps, not just. And probably, if I look at certain regions of the UK, like Blackpool, all these things, it's like this. It's not a surprise, because they didn't fix it there. They just created areas. They're like, go here, have your house, and no, go down here. What are we going to do? Oh, we go down the fucking pub, or go and play pokies. It's like, this all existed everywhere. But I think the main thing that's missing is so much of the work became conceptual. And this is why we're having these things like crazes with gyms and fitness. It's like that's because we cannot have huge portions of the populations working on conceptual things because we're quite simple creatures. You end up getting back to the beginning going, fuck all that. It's all a waste of time. Because it always ends up, it's like basically install a human in, and this is kind of the Matrix, install a human in a pod that just whacks them off and injects them with heroin and, feeds them fucking sugar and fat. It's like, that's it. That's what that conceptual thing will do, unless you go to something more grand. And then you're and then in a physical, you're immediately talking about architecture or large broadacre like conservation or sustainable agriculture, but there's nothing else. And so we need these projects, because then you go. I think most people that have worked in an office or worked in conceptual or data or something like that, they'll look at something like construction work or doing it as this whatever. It can be wonderful, and we could even scale it. Like it doesn't. There's no hurry. Have a 4-hour work day in construction, and then you'd come home and just be like, yes, all right. You can then enjoy it, and then you snap out of the hypnotism of the car and the roads and the traffic and the home, and you start seeing all the in-between spaces that have been neglected because you're used to having an impact on a physical place by a building. And I think this is, it's just a mental phenomenon. It's just it's a mistake of our own technologies, and how many stories do we have that are basically that, like the hubris of man, where we just oops, everyone, like we talk about the metaverse. It's like we already had the metaverse. The metaverse was just so absurd that certain people thought it was, of course we're going to have the metaverse. It's like people have already made this observation 100 years ago that we were being trapped in conceptual metaverses anyway. The last 100 years has been the metaverse of conceptual, administrative, like overcomplication of very simple things. We need to learn how to build financial walls to isolate a region, and everyone's forgotten how to do it. If you say you get a shire, like the Shire of Gingin, I'd say if you took all the shire rates and instead of trying to manage that place, you just turned it all into coins, into gold coins. And then you openly put out tender to distribute on that, and you weren't allowed to, like the coins would stay there, I'd say we'd be in a far better place, because the coins would just move around that place. And that's a way of like extracting from the larger casino and then putting it, ultra focusing it into a region, and then incentivizing everything in the physical. So make a wall. It's like you don't, and I think this is basically the largest thing is, rather than everyone's money, everything in online, and then you'd store gold. It's like, no, I want everything in gold. And then maybe I'll put one of those gold coins in and buy some credit to I don't know, buy movies or something online, because the online paradigm is far shittier. And this is the hill I'll die on. It's like, that's what I'm doing with my property, the family estate property. It's like, that's that. There's no way. If someone was like, do you want to digitize that property? I'd be like, no fucking way in hell. And it's the only reason this is being perpetuated is because we live in a paradigm where the too high a percentage of people are indebted, basically slaves, with an equation that breaks out of break even for them to go to default and leave. It's the strangest. So everyone's like, say the last property bubble, the financial crisis, it was all driven on defaults. It's like defaults have become the whole arrangement has been has shifted, so that defaults is just like relocating out of a rental. Almost like it's like the whole paradigm is running on that, on defaults, and then there's no it's just oversold. It's Airbnb state. And what can we expect? Because its major output is an export and mining, and they all do FIFO. And so we need, like, it's like this is the funniest thing. You get down to like horrific statements. Like, you need to register your FIFO person in your family and put a fucking tag on them. Basically, like a dog or a cat. And then people are like, well, I'm not a dog or a cat. It's like, well, fuck, I didn't fucking make it like this. But people have got to fucking put registered tags on livestock. And so if you work for BHP, you're a fucking part of their livestock, basically. And you're creating a fucking shit mess that, your lawn might be fucking tidy and all this stuff, but it's like you're connected to an absolute monstrous fucking system that is bulldozing the fuck out of what was built here, but well before you've come here, or while your fucking ancestors were here on a fucking ship in chains, or while this isn't. And there's so many distractions from it. Like, you turn on TV, you turn on a movie, Netflix, whatever, or you go out in the glorious sunshine, which if you've come from England or from Europe, that might take you 40 years to get over that. But this is the flip. This isn't a fucking holiday camp. It never was. Or we'll just transfer all ownership. We'll say, all right, everyone from this period, from the last 150 years, it's still in Australia, we're all going home. We want to cash out of our holding that we built and that we developed for the Commonwealth. Our contract's finished. So then once we're adequately remunerated for our services to the Commonwealth, we will return back to England. We will dispossess all the immigrants and we'll send them down here. And then you realize that you can't run away from your problems by going and finding a fucking holiday camp. And that's probably where we need to be. Or something like that. And your mob fucking tactics, or your fingers in your ears, or your head in the sand stuff is not going to work. Because it never does. We're not talking about, doing a runner out of the pub and not paying for your drinks. We're talking about 180 years of a place's history, and you're threatening that entire place by your actions collectively. And something needs to be done about it immediately. And so that's where I'm happy that when I see coincidences like that emerge in my timeline, and I know that all I need to do is just concentrate. I've said what I'm going to do. I've put it here out of courtesy so that you all know. I've indicated my actions into the future. I won't require any debt or any money because I won't. That paradigm is not actually that old. It's always existed, but this broadcasting of debt and mortgages, that's like 80 years old, and it is a mistake. And so the one thing that's good in Australia is because we only have big four banks or whatever, I get to have a conversation as a freehold land caretaker. Got to be careful, I don't actually own it. With those banks, and that they own everything. You know what I mean? And it's in their interest to work cooperatively with a overall vision that's stronger, because that turns their kind of pass-through investment into stable long-term investment, which then boosts up their balance sheet. You know, probably insulates them from the thing. But there needs to be action, and we need to figure out who's causing the instability, and we have to get to the politicians, because they're the ones just selling bullshit to the Australian people. They're selling this fucking concept that just doesn't make sense. We need to get specific with the terminologies. When you say everyone needs a house, what do you fucking mean by that? What do you really mean by everyone needs a house? What do you mean by, minimum wage, all these things? Because I'm working for minimum wage now to defend the whole fucking thing. Actually, I'm working voluntarily to defend the whole thing and to defend my own family. So what? Let's do these equations. Let's do them all. It's like, what are you paying for education grants? Okay, I'd like to be back paid for my self-education in order to defend the entire region. And this is where we're just going to get into like absolute nonsense. And it's like, yeah, what do we learn from the fact that Labor just won a majority vote? And they're gloating, I think. We learn that the country is completely fucked, and that the only resort is to vote for Labor and all get together. And maybe that is an achievement. Yeah, maybe we turn that fucking Labor vote, rather than a victorious Labor lap of victory, we turn it into the largest warning signal shot across every fucking screen in every region that says this place is in fucking turmoil. So we've had to all get together to have one collective individual, who was Anthony Albanese, to say we're all fucked. And I'd go, Albo, I know you're all fucked. This is why. All you've done is won a popular vote that says, hey, is the place fucked? I might try and fix it. We're Labor. We're all in this together. Yeah, okay. You're all in this together. That's the fucking problem. You're expecting to be spoon-fed life in every direction. You've got public school paid for. You force teachers to try and teach kids that are pulling knives on them and shit like that. You force fucking, this socialist nonsense. People who aren't going to try to do something aren't going to try to do something. Stop fucking paying them. Stop providing them with education. You know what I mean? Stop providing them with second and third and fourth chances, whilst having a roof put over their head, having, dole payments and things like that. It's like, start getting them to the end of the line. And that is actually in service to them. If you end up as a place, this is the end of the line, you end up in some fucking dormitory where you've got to work 4 hours a day to get your food. After 2 weeks of putting things down, you'll be like, well, I built that wall. And all I got was food for it. It's not fucking slavery. You know what I mean? Have term limits on it. You're in this fucking shit, righto, you got 4 weeks fucking duty to this place. That's what a convict is. Yeah, so you've done this place, you've done a runner on this, whatever, you've been caught doing this, you can't pay your shit, you go to fucking Centrelink, no, okay, you're sent to this place, and you go and fucking, and it's not a prison. It's like basically like if you fuck around there, then you're sent out the fucking door. Like we've just got everything fucking wrong. This prison, it's like you put me in prison with fucking guards because I shared a photograph of my family on Facebook, and that cost the fucking government some stupid fucking number. But that's all this weird thought pattern. And I was in the process of explaining it and talking about it. It's like that's insane. Whereas you could have sent me somewhere to fucking, you know what I mean, stack rocks for 2 weeks or stack bricks for 2 weeks and paid me in food, and I would have had that, and then I still would have got out, and then I would have gone to you and said, well, you got to pay me for my work because I was right. Putting someone in jail for sharing a photograph is insane. It's like this is never going to work the way that you think it's going to work. No matter how close you are to China, China is not going to try and take on this whole thing filled with Australians in a culture that it barely understands. It can't do it. So they're going to have to deal with us, and they're okay with that. And they want us to like get our shit together so that we can send a clear message to what we need and what we want. And we need to rebalance the whole thing, because at the moment their strategy is just make everything shit, make billions of it, and then hopefully, if they buy it or they don't, or it goes to rubbish. Which if those things are made out of organic material, okay. If that's made out of plastic, that's just pollution and litter. To appease so that some spoiled fucking probably, single mum on getting paid 7 payments, when she walks past the window, she has 7 plastic fucking trinkets to fucking ponder at, that 6 of them will end up in the rubbish and the 7th will end up in the rubbish a week after she buys it. So that's the economy. That's fucking insane. And that's because everything physical that you hold is used as a currency of sorts. And that's why it's like that. When I say transferring, local government rate payments into a gold coin, that no one's going to fucking throw the gold coin out, because you know that you can pass it on. What'd you do for the Shire? I did this and got a gold coin. Oh, cool. And then what? What can you use that gold coin for? Oh, I can use it here to do this. And how does that benefit the government? Because then the Shire is getting built. The village or the town or the community is getting built by the movement of these coins, and that is overall held as an asset by the state and by the federal government, and then in turn by the entire Commonwealth. That's how it works. At the moment, it's all just being fucking blasted up into the air and is being used to pollute the entire world. Yeah. But we've got to a place where complexity or concern is misunderstood by such a large portion of the people, because they're constantly provoked to be scared and fearful and jealous and all these things by our media and by our politicians spreading that story. So anyone that tries to say, well, we could just do, they're like, oh, yeah, fucking, they just hear it as like snobby. They don't understand it. They just think they think it's like a scam. They think it's going to end up fucking, they're like, I'd rather just buy me fucking plastic shit down the road, and I just want me money and buy my fucking bread. And like this kind of hard done by mentality. And I saw this in my children's mother the whole time I knew her, constantly hard done by. It's like the whole family is like that, and they're constantly being hard. But it's like, that's like a condition. And what I now know is, like, if you find someone that feels hard done by, they're going to fucking punch you in the back of the fucking head when you're not looking. They're going to trip you down the fucking stairs. They're going to fucking, burn your fucking grain cellar or something like that. And this is where we need to get to the difference. Like, that's what Labor got for the thing. They got a hard done by vote. and of a place that didn't establish this aristocracy, didn't establish this higher class thing in the same way. And that's what's the fucking scariest thing. That's like you look at the Bolshevik revolution. That's so. All right, Albo, you've got them all fucking fired up with your fucking voice to parliament, with your whinging about houses, with your fucking all this shit. It's like, what's next, cunt? Yeah, what's fucking next? Who the fuck are you going to blame next? And it's just kind of laughable to have a second term of that. And if there's one thing, it's like, look at what just happened in the US. The minute any of that shit starts here with their last Biden presidency, it's like the minute any of that shit starts here, let's just fucking close the whole fucking thing down. Just shut off the fucking internet, shut off the fucking digital payments, close down the bottle shops, close down the fucking casinos, and just say, what the fuck are you going to do now? You know what I mean? And because it's like we didn't want to keep it as a prison, but the fucking Labor Party decided it's more efficient and it works better to keep it as a prison. And then if you have enough of those prisoners, it's like they're the prison. The Labor Party is the prisoners' union, and it's kind of like they've got that rioting eye look in their eye. And it's like, all right, turn everything fucking off. You know what I mean? Show them how to fucking do something in the real world that's beautiful. And then when they go back to their cell, which is their bungalow in the suburbs, they'll go, fucking hell. Fuck you, Albo. You're saying all this shit about a house. It's like, so I bought this fucking $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 house. And I've just stacked fucking a wall. I built a wall in this, and that we're surrounded by fucking abundant land, and we've got the internet, so there's no real reason to be closer. You've just stuck me in a prison of suburbia. And that's like, then you want to see, then I'll have the hard done bys. All the people that you think you've helped, they'll be like, fuck you, Albo, you tricked me, you dickhead. I didn't want any of this. Most men I speak to, when they've fucking got that suicidal look in their eye, which is pretty much 90% of young fathers after the fucking, grueling 6-day work week, 10 to 12-hour days, they sit there and they're like, oh, I just want to get a little boat and fucking just hang a rod over the edge of it and catch fish. So, do it then. Do it then. But you can't when you're a slave to the fucking Labour Party. Yeah. It's like, before you start treating your significant other as a queen, you make sure that she's from the right fucking bloodline. Otherwise, like I said, hard done by. She's going to end up fucking pushing you down the stairs on the way out. And there's a whole lot of fucking palaces down here with a whole lot of hardworking men. And I'm just waiting to watch the whole fucking thing crumble. And hopefully not crumble. Hopefully like re-establish itself. Just need to have the correction. Like prices are going to go down. It's like, no, we need to have a proper correction, which means that each area on its own merits properly corrects to a new paradigm, hopefully one of stability, hopefully one of prosperity into the future and stabilization, and a reconnection with the fundamentals of life. And what does that mean? It means anyone who's got a fucking brain goes and moves to a fucking small village somewhere in the country, and sets up their fucking life that way and tries to fit in that. They take what their winnings basically from the concentration camp casino and they reinvest it in a stable life for their future. And then hopefully we can downsize the amount of concentration camp bungalows. And this is where we're going to have to get, it's like the meth house that's been thing. You got to fucking demolish it. Yeah, you've got a rental that's had fucking people smoking meth in it for fucking 6 years. You've got to demolish it. You do. You've blown your fucking dosh. And then it's like, who does it? Default back to the CommBank. Okay, let's immediately get all the big four banks Let's take their fucking holdings, whether in mortgage or in rental, whatever it is. Let's go and do meth tests for the entire their entire holdings, and immediately demolish everything. They can take it. You got to take the big fucking hit. Why? Because you've assisted with this digital fucking infrastructure. You've just projected an advertisement with a former president's son of crack cocaine across the entire globe with your digital fucking economy, and you're holding on to these assets that are dangerously polluted. We need to go and fucking demolish them. You need to pay for the relocation costs of whoever it is, unless they've been found guilty for actually doing it. And yeah, it's like health authorities. It's like, you can't. If we found out that every McDonald's was cooking meth, then the fact that we'd do the same thing there. So what does CommBank become? CommBank is McDonald's, and every house is basically a hotel room. And so if that hotel room is being used for as a crack house on an asset that the meaning of default is not being felt, the same thing. So almost like default is their exit plan because they're in there smoking meth. Then you have provided a fucking place for people to do that, and it's polluted and it's hidden. And so we don't want to cover up. We want to get to the bottom of it now. And I think we can do that right now. And then those houses can become open space. We just clear the fucking block. Clear the block, clear the house, get rid of the thing, and plant a fucking garden there or some trees or something like that. Then everyone will know. It's like, oh, that's when CommBank turned the world into a fucking, basically a crack house fucking casino. And that was a crack house that the Commonwealth Bank financed. And so now it's a fucking forest. Then maybe if we get you get a whole street that's all crackheads, and we knock the whole fucking street down. Then what do you do with the crackheads? You go and send them to the place to fucking put the rocks down. They realize the stacking bricks is easy. It's pretty fucking easy. But let's see if we've still got the nerve that's required to defend ourselves against this level of shit. And I think we do. I think we've got a good history. I think we're in the perfect place to do it. And I think with good communication, we can restabilize the whole area. But it's like, you got to get, if you're doing the wrong thing, you're going to be in the fucking wrong place. You're not, this basically the cruise ship is fucking going out of business. You won't starve. You won't be bad at anything. We will put you in a position according to your behavior where you will learn a skill set that will give you a potential for future income, and will also give you the vision that you can actually achieve something with your own body and mind, that you can see through and finish. And yeah, that's invaluable and will feed you at the same time. It's almost like voluntary. It's basically like voluntary debtors prison or voluntary meth head prison, to build a place. And I guess that's where we are. It seems like that's where we are. I don't see really any other solution to do it. And to flip that and to commercialize it, but just pays some prison guards and pays some fucking catering staff and things like that. It's like, what the fuck is that about? It all comes down to sorting and triage, and that's, you just have skilled people doing that. There's people doing that all the time. And just, you go on record that you're very disruptive, so you don't get those perks anymore. Then you might end up in a real prison. But yeah. So That's what I'm predicting. A gigantic national correction, which some areas are going to. Correction doesn't mean all bad. It means if there's a failed area, it's going to fail. And then there's things like we can get really good at moving houses. Make that a specialty. I'd quite love to get into that. Maybe that's what I'll do. I was thinking about doing walls, but I'm going to build my own walls. So I'm going to get into the business, I think, of moving houses. I'm going to find out how to do that because that would be fucking fun, I think. And I think you can move these whole fucking places. They're on good pads. And yeah, who knows? Maybe it was always designed that way. Anyway, that'll do for today. Thank you for watching. No questions today, no messages. And I'll take that as a good thing. And rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Fucking hell. Hooroo.